Yeah, I wasn't sure. I haven't done this in a while, like a year, and I didn't realize it was good. Well, I knew it was Good Friday, but I didn't connect it. Oh, maybe there won't be that many people on a Good Friday for this validation call. But anyway, my name is Andrey. I'm the owner of Kitchen Tune Up Heights, which is essentially the just Cleveland, Ohio area. Kevin Harris is joining. Just want to put names. Okay, the Cleveland, Ohio area, and we did the training school March of 2019. So basically, we didn't really kick off until May of 2019. So we bought one territory. About a year later, bought another territory. We had at that point so I was the first one in Cleveland, Ohio area. Then we had three other owners join. So it did get built out, or I guess bought out pretty quick. And so then we bought another territory. So we have two territories, and then earlier this year we were able to merge with another local kitchen tune-up here right next to me and acquire them. Now they're part of our territory, so that's been good for us. It's been a crazy month for me. I know I think a week or two ago I was supposed to host this, and I was like, I can't. It's like, sorry, Craig. So essentially, what we've been in business for, what was it, 4 years? I used to work in the corporate world, like IT projects and financial kind of background, and then jumped into this. So I guess brief overview. So typically the way this goes, we just go in order of whoever joined first and just have your questions. I'll go in order: Mike, Andrew, Jesus, and Kevin. Is it Jesus, or how do you say it? Is it just
usually Jesus, but
Jesus? Okay, I'll say
because here in the United States, if you say Jesus, it will sound.
Yeah, I was like,
it's Good Friday,
especially today.
I'll say the Martinez couple. No, okay, I'm kidding.
But you can brag that you have a meeting today with Jesus.
Yeah, well, the thief on the cross. I mean, yeah. So cool. Thanks for joining. I'll go with let's go with Mike.
Yeah, so thanks. This is actually my second group validation call that I've sat on. Where my wife and I, who unfortunately is not able to join me today, but we're kind of like midway. A couple weeks ago, I would have said we're very early in the process, but we're a little further along. Probably took on too many prospects at one time, so I'm trying to juggle a lot of potential options right now. And Kitchen Tune Up is it's sitting there pretty near the top, and we know we're gonna have to make a decision pretty soon. But I've done the research on the FTD. Like I said, I was on one group validation call. I'm trying to find out as much as I can through as many resources as I can. And in general, I'll just get right to the point, I guess. I'm struggling to understand true margins and true income. I'm getting pretty wildly different answers. The call I was on with, and he was great. He did a fantastic job of providing good information. But he similar to you at the beginning, and he said his take home this year was 72,000, and he had multiple territories. And to which I had replied, well, one of your techs then has to be making more than you. He says everybody is making more than me, and that seemed like an odd answer. I didn't pry too much. But anyway, I guess I'm just getting right to the jugular here. Does that sound reasonable? I'm looking at the gross margins and the FDD, and those look pretty good, but obviously those are gross margins. Yeah, just trying to get the numbers straight.
Yeah, I would say kind of in terms of, I'll speak in percentages if you don't mind. I would say you want to be, this is like if you're paying yourself an S Corp salary. So, it depends on what you're going to need to take home. In the beginning of the business, first couple of years, do you want to take home 70,000? Do you want to take home 150,000 while you're growing your business? So I'd say a lot depends on what you're looking to withdraw, because like if you look at a P&L statement, and if you don't take a salary, your net income's going to be like, whoa, 25%. But it's really not 25% because you're doing owner's draws and it doesn't go against your P&L report. So I would say, depending on what salary you take, what you want to, I would say, shoot for like 15 to 20%. I mean, obviously 20%. It takes a little bit of time too. Are you funding it up front through an SBA loan? Are you doing your own owner? Are you funding it yourself in the beginning? Are you doing a 401k rollover? So a lot of that comes into play. In the beginning, you're just doing a small storage unit, doing your own sales. Do you have a salesperson? So if you're doing your own sales, you're kind of artificially saving yourself, improving your net income because you're not paying out commission. So there's a lot of factors. I mean, before I did this, opened this, I probably did these validation calls. I think I was really slow. It took me about a year and a half to make a decision. I probably did about 30 of these. So the fact that you're on your second one, that's good. So you can get different perspectives. I mean, in the beginning, it was also hard too because you're trying to figure out. So year 1, 2, your net income's gonna be low, but as you continue to grow and pay down your initial loans, you grow your territory. Then you can, like my goal, long-term goal, year 4 or 5, is to be a net income closer to 20%. So if your revenue is $1 million, you want to be closer to 20%. But that doesn't mean, are you taking salary out? So then that drops down probably closer to, like I said, 15, maybe a little bit less. But again, you already gave yourself a salary of 75, 100, 125. So it depends on what you take out of the business, and do you want to grow the business, or it's kind of right, because I came from corporate world, I was probably making more money, but I knew it was going to take a little bit of time to reach that potential of, where you kind of cap yourself in the corporate world, if that makes sense.
Yep.
And a lot depends too. What area are you in?
So yeah, that could potentially be a challenge here as well. So I'm in Southwest Michigan, sort of Kalamazoo, Battle Creek. There is a neighbor. Michigan actually has quite a few outlets. So I'm not sure in terms of really.
Do you know Joe Goldsberry, something like that?
No, I actually have not spoken to anybody in Michigan.
Okay.
I
talked to Nick and Tessa Pash there in Grand Rapids.
No, I've seen their site.
Okay.
Yeah, they're on the list. But yeah, and that's kind of, again, in the population here, it's not a huge density. I'm literally sitting in the woods right now waiting for my internet to blank out any second. So it's fairly rural. There is some extremely high income in some areas, but not a great deal of consistency. But I'm also looking at it for a business like this. These are people who aren't necessarily looking to buy a new home. Obviously, they're trying to make the home that they're in a little more livable and within a reasonable price. So there could be a benefit to that. But yeah, I'm trying to do, and I come from the business world as well, about 30 years in marketing and advertising, and I'm trying to look at, all right, who is my target? Who are these people? How likely are they to be receptive to the service, et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, long way of saying I'm in the Battle Creek, Kalamazoo area.
Yes, I mean that's so. I think where we're most successful in terms of like you mentioned demographic. Walk into a $1.5 million home where they have a budget of 150,000, 200,000. They're going to work with this is how you scale your business. But if you have a designer on staff, somebody's going to hold their hand, can take down walls, do huge remodels, not just kitchen, but remodel the whole first floor. For example, I had a room. Probably not kitchen tune-up would be doing it. Somebody who does new builds or full home remodels. So that wouldn't be your ideal probably clientele. Somebody with a house under 200,000 would probably be challenging to finance even a reface full remodel project. So it's a mixed bag because we have communities where there's huge beautiful homes and that's just not our clientele. And there's also the areas that are more low income, harder to reach, and more challenging, and you're not going to be successful in those areas. It's in our area, it's the $250,000 to $650,000 home that I'd say we're most successful.
Yeah.
So okay, we'll come back, Andrew.
Good afternoon. Appreciate you taking the time to field questions. So I am currently deep into my career in I'm accounting, finance, dabbled in operations. So my question is, I am not a sales, I don't sell, and I am not a technical or a handy person. So how does that put me behind the 8 ball by looking into something like kitchen tune-up?
I think in terms of any business, it doesn't. I think what we bring is our ability to be business owners, know our numbers, and be able to staff and run the team. So I don't have a sales background. I've installed 0 kitchens out of maybe 200 projects that we've done. So I would say it's about finding. In the beginning, I did do sales, and I still do sales. And I'll say, sales is a lot about building rapport, asking for the close, just knowing it's about education, knowing your product. You could be awesome and everybody loves you, but you don't know your product. You're not going to sell because the next person is going to come in and be just as awesome as you, but they'll know your product. So I don't know. My background was IT project management and finance. So I never did sales. I never did home remodeling. So I wouldn't necessarily say that should stop you, but that would apply to you do window treatment, concretes. It would apply across the board, any business, flowers, anything. Kids swim school, right?
Right.
So I think it'd be more of just being excited about running a business, not necessarily seeing yourself in a position to do sales or installations.
Okay, because I used to own half of a lighting distributorship about 30 years ago. So, and I know what I was, I ran the back office and the warehouse. I know what we did wrong there, and I know what we needed to do better. And I just want to make sure, because I'm looking at multiple types of franchises. Kitchen tune-up is right in the middle in terms of initial capital outlay and in terms of, I'm going to say, complexity. Like it's not, it's not manufacturing, or I guess could be construed as light manufacturing. And when I say I haven't sold, I've sold a number of times over the years. I've had to sell my superiors on investing in a new ERP system because what we use in accounting was just not cutting it. So I never sold to external customers, but I know how to sell internally. And I'll only ask one other question right now, and I'll let you go around the panel. But I know there are advantages. And this is the finance number side of my brain speaking. I know there are advantages when you own your own business, for taxation stuff. And what in the beginning, what would you say? And I know it's hard to quantify dollars because I'm in Southern California in the San Diego area, but what amount of your personal expenses were you able to kind of, that kind of went away because you were able to use them as business expenses?
Good question. I would say things like your cell phones, maybe some transportation or half of your transportation. I have a warehouse, so I really don't write off anything from like a home deduction perspective. I would say I wouldn't say like that would be like my top 5 reason to do this.
Right.
I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, no, I'm more concerned about in the beginning because it is hard to replace a corporate salary. My thing is really just making sure that that I keep a handle on. I don't want our lifestyle to change. I know I'm taking in less money the first year, probably the second year also, but I'm just trying to figure out like, all right, I have a car payment now. Well, that I'm going to need a car for the business. So I look at that as, I'm not adding a business expense, or I'm transferring a personal expense to the business. It's kind of what I'm getting at there.
Yeah. If you look at a car payment a year, what could be 5,000-6,000, cell phones could be another 2,000.
Right. So there are some things, right, that you can, that, all right, it's not like, okay, well, I need to get a vehicle. Well, I'm not going to have 2 vehicles. So that really wouldn't be, you can either look at it this way, either I don't need that in the business, or a personal expense drops off, one or the other, right? Yeah, correct.
So I guess kind of go back to my point with Mike is, sure, you can say somebody's making a lower salary, but also their personal expenses have decreased or not decreased and transferred another 15, 18,000, let's say. So your salary is really not 75, it's 103.
Right. And what I'm just looking at also is obviously, when you're salaried, I'm certainly going to be paying less taxes first year you start a business. Then, I'm not sure if you're aware of what the state tax rate is here in California, but it's not pleasant.
What is it?
Yeah, exactly. So, all right, I'll shut up for now and let you get to Jesus and Kevin.
I think I had Jesus. Yes.
Okay, sorry, I'm on my wife's computer and it's a Mac, and I'm not yet used to Macs. I'm more like a busy guy. A little bit of my background for everybody. I'm an architect, graduated in Mexico. I've been working as a project manager, and kitchen tune-up is kind of I think something that gets in line with my background, especially being a project manager. So we have actually a couple of friends that are opening at the south of Texas our kitchen tune-up right now. They're already committed and all that. So they're about to start probably in this next couple of weeks, I will presume. So obviously talking with them, kind of we already have a look at all the franchises and all that, and this one probably is like Mike said, also kind of one of the top or the top one that we have in my wife and myself. one of the questions I have, I mean, obviously, one of the biggest challenges that I believe that everybody who's going to start a franchise is the beginning, So one of my questions for you, Andrey, is actually in reality, how much money you have to invest at the beginning. I know that they told me, I mean, the franchise fees and a couple of much more money, but I will kind of try to have an idea of on the first year, I mean, how much out of my pocket I need to put into this business. I think that will be one of my questions, and the other one will be is what will be the kind of average amount of your invoicing every month at the beginning?
So the invoicing, you mean what we would charge,
or the revenue that you see, or I guess probably not in terms of numbers. Let's think more in terms of how many jobs, probably. How many jobs will be usually you booking in your, I mean, especially at the beginning, because this is when most of the business struggle, at the beginning, to get the clients. Once I'm assuming that after the first year, you already have a certain number of clients that recommend you, and things start getting a little bit more smooth. But I guess at the beginning is where you find the most challenging times,
Yeah, I mean, in the beginning, it's always you're every day learning something new. A lot goes back into how much you're going to invest in the beginning to marketing. So, is it you're going to start off with spending $2,000-3,000 in marketing, or you're going to hit it hard and spend $10,000 in marketing a month? So, a lot of that's going to answer. You're doing 1 or 2 jobs a month in the beginning, or are you going to do 4 to 5 jobs a month in the beginning? So, a lot of that depends on how much you're going to spend. I know that Kitchen Tune kind of has like a 10% rule in terms of your revenue to your marketing spend. So whatever number that is, you're spending $5,000 a month. That means you're trying to hit 600,000 a year, something like that, I guess, is a kind of a rule of thumb. So it all depends. I mean, I would say we started slower just because we weren't spending as much in marketing. But then once we got our feet wet, got our sales going, got a team going, a little more confidence in selling, closing jobs. So it all depends. If you start out doing sales and it's a huge learning curve, it is going to be a little bit slower of a kickoff. If you can hire an awesome sales rep who can close deals for you, then you'll hit the ground running fast. It also could depend too. There's, it's not to have my own kind of position on holidays in business, but usually December, January kind of does slow down. So if you're starting your business in November, you're going to be like, man, this is taking months to kick off. But really, if you started in March, which right now is a great time, March, April, then people are thinking about it more. So then you're like, oh, I started the business, I hit the ground running. So like when we started our business, it was right after all the home shows. And I feel like I wish I had started the business 3-4 months earlier before all the shows had happened and got all those leads. So I feel like, sometimes you can judge your business like, oh, first year is difficult, but also when you started too. Like in Cleveland, for some reason, all the shows, there's 3-4 shows, they all pack in the first 2-3 months of the year. So when we started in April, it's like, we missed out on all those. So I mean, in the first year, you could be doing 1 job a month, 2 jobs a month, 3 to 4 jobs a month. Also depends on the size of your job. You can have 2 smaller jobs or 1 large one that replaces 2 or 3 jobs. Just because we don't just do refacing, we can do full remodels. So it's hard to say. First year you can, let's say your revenue could be 200,000, 300,000. Next year it could be 600,000. Some of that is timing. Some of that is your marketing spend. Some of that is is your salesperson out there closing deals with the leads that you're providing them.
Yeah. On your area, I mean, how big is the population in your area?
Good question. I don't know. That's a good question.
Is about the million?
Probably. Yeah. But again, when I started, I was at all of Cleveland for about 6 months, and then about a year, 3 other owners bought it out. So honestly, I think that matters, right? Because if you're starting, you're the only kitchen tune-up show in town, you're gonna have way more options. If you're starting, then other territories get bought out. Obviously, your opportunities can be limited, but that doesn't mean you can't invest more into your backyard in your territory. So I wouldn't say like that should stop somebody, but it'd be dishonest not to say that it's not going to impact things.
Got it.
It's not a bad thing, because then in the flip side, when you do have other franchise owners that you can partner up on certain things like marketing and radio and TV and home shows, so you're splitting a lot of those expenses too. You're sharing staffing sometimes. So there's pros and cons to it. It's how hard you're going to hit it. To your first question, so basically you're asking how much you would spend outside of like everything to pay for the franchise.
Yeah. I was thinking, how much is in reality the investment? Let's say that if the franchise costs right now $80,000, and you put on top the startup expenses that you have. At the end of the first year to say, okay, I need 150, 120, that's kind of the number that I'm looking in my mind. Saying, okay, for the first year, I need to have this amount of money, or for the first 6 months, I need to have this amount of money. I mean, I know that they always give you some number, but I would like to hear that same from someone who already run a franchise.
Okay, so let's just use round numbers. Let's say you spend $60,000 a month. I'm sorry, $6,000 a year in marketing. So whatever that is, what is it, $5,000 a month?
Yeah, $5,000 a month.
You do a warehouse for around $1,000, $1,500. Let's just use 1,000. So there's another 12,000. So you're at 72. So those are probably your big expenses. I mean, liability insurance probably another 5,000. So you're at 77. Auto probably throw in another 6, 7. So you're at 80,000. So I guess cell phones 2,000 a year, or whatever it comes out to, 3,000 a year. So I would say we're at mid-80, right? So there's gonna be like, I'd say
warehouse, is a warehouse at the beginning is a must?
I did a 600 square foot storage unit that was climate controlled. I was paying like around $650 a month.
Okay.
Now I have a warehouse to pay $1,200 a month.
Okay.
So the warehouse makes more sense because I have my office here too.
Gotcha.
Okay. And 3 little ones at home. So
yeah.
Well, so I guess I don't know if that answers your question in terms of.
Yeah. I mean that gives me a pretty good idea. I mean, approximately, what to expect, during the first year, and probably, I mean, if you divide that in half, I mean, probably it's close to what you're going to spend the first 6 months.
Yeah, and but at the same time, you're going to start having revenue come in to cover those.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
We're just looking at expenses with no net revenue.
Yeah. I'm going to leave the next one for
next round.
I don't know who's the next
was about to be Kevin, but he just dropped off. Well, hey, Mike, we can come back with Mike. Maybe Kevin just having issues. Mike, are you there?
Yeah, for now. I keep dropping off too, so I
You're setting up the internet over there?
yeah. I was going to kind of building on where Jesus was going in terms of the initial investments, et cetera. As I'm working through the FDD and looking at the marketing spends, and I have a pretty good idea of what local market costs should be already. The numbers that are in the FDD are pretty close, I think, to what I would expect to have to spend. But where I'm kind of struggling is to what degree does Kitchen Tune Up assist in your initial lead generation? So, or put another way, how much are you on your own when you get started?
I would say mostly you're kind of on your own. I mean, they do have like a national advertising approach, but I would say expect, that's why with any franchise, expect to spend 90% of your marketing, 90% of your leads to come from your marketing. I would say something like maybe 85. So it's not, it's not 50% or 90% from the franchise. I would say it's majority is from you or from each owner, their local spending.
Okay. Yeah, kind of, to Andrew's point, I've done sales. I've not, directly for myself. I've helped Kellogg sell stuff and things like that. But I have to admit that kind of gives me a little bit of pause because of course, owning your own business, it's all on you, and it's your responsibility to make it work. Any business is going to require some degree of sales. But what concerns me is the level of what I call cold calling, whether it's derived via marketing or word of mouth and things like that, which is all valid and obviously it works. But I'm reticent to start on that foot. Versus some of these other prospects I'm looking at, they literally sort of say we're going to bolster your first 3-4 months with what they call their national accounts or their in-house lead generation, and sort of guarantee a certain amount of activity as soon as you turn the lights on.
Does it come at a cost in terms of those other prospects?
Yeah, it's the verticals that they charge you for. So if you choose to opt in, there's one, however, it's not a cost. It's literally they manage the call center for all of their franchises. By which you get lead generation, as part of your actual franchise involvement.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, that's probably, I'm not saying I'm having the most accurate percentage, but I would say we still do a lot of our own marketing to get the leads.
Okay.
Cool. Andrew, Kevin's gone.
Yeah, he's put a note in the chat that he had to leave, so he wasn't going to ask a question. And before I forget, Mike, shout out to Kalamazoo. My wife's grandfather had a house on Gull Lake.
I'm half a mile from Gull Lake.
That's crazy.
Literally, yeah. The river behind my house comes out of Gull Lake.
That's awesome. All right. So Andrey, as you've brought employees on, I'll ask this in a series. So what role did the first employee you hired do, and what is the current makeup of your staff in terms of their roles, and are they direct employees or are they 1099?
So in the beginning, I would say we started a little bit slower, so we used the 1099 installer. I wouldn't change a thing about that just because it's not like you're not getting all these jobs lined up where you're going to hire somebody W-2 and get them 40 hours every week or 35 to 40 hours every week. You're still building on your projects. Because in the first 2-3 months, by the time you sell a job and you order materials, it's going to be it could be 2 months before you receive your material, or a month and a half. So you don't want to go through the whole process of hiring somebody and then losing them just because you can't supply enough hours for them. So the subcontractor route worked fine for us. And the first year and a half, I did a subcontractor route, and it was fine. I didn't have any pushback or issues. It's all about the relationship. If somebody's terrible, then you just don't use them anymore. So the subcontractor route makes sense. And then I probably did sales for the first 6 to 8 months, and then found a sales rep, let him go, jump back into sales, then found another sales rep. It's kind of part-time-ish. So I still did some sales appointments. Then brought on a W-2, like I said, a year after, maybe even more after I started. So I'd say right now I have 2 sales rep and a kind of a part-time sales rep because he's on Social Security, but I might use him in a different capacity just because we acquired the additional territories. Then I have 2 full-time installers and maybe 3 to 4 subcontractors. So depending on the type. So a subcontractor could be just somebody who does full cabinets or just this tile, just this flooring. So it all depends on what you want to get into. Some kitchen tune-ups don't even want to touch countertops, flooring, backsplash. We do cabinets and that's it. So you'd have less of a need for employees that have other skill sets, or even more importantly, you wouldn't even need all the subcontractors.
Got it. That was very helpful.
Yeah. Cool. Jesus?
Yes. Do you share part of the profit from the additional work that you do to the kitchens, like at the countertops? I mean, with the franchise? I mean, I don't know, countertops, electrical job, plumbing that you have to do in order to install that kitchen?
So, I mean, the easy answer is whatever you put in your proposal, that's where you're going to get your royalty at.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so if you manage different proposals for the cabinet and a different proposal for countertops and I don't know, lighting for the kitchen and switches and plugs or things like that, if you handle that separately, then that doesn't have to go into the percentage that you need to pay for royalties.
But so by separately, typically what that means is we just give it up to the electrician and we make no money on it.
Okay.
So if we want to make money on it, we put it in a proposal and we do, I'll charge your margin, get their current charge twice as high. Much. Yeah. So, but everything then is part of the royalty then.
Yeah. I'm with you.
Yep. So that kind of like, Mike's question at the beginning in terms of like net income and stuff like that. So obviously, if half of your revenue is countertops, you're not going to make that much margin. You're just not going to be able to compete and charge as much margin as you charge for refacing because those are your suppliers and those are your installers. So there's, you can have somebody who makes, sells 500,000 with no countertops and great net income. It makes the same amount of money as somebody who sells $1 million, but does a lot of countertops, a lot of subcontractor work with lower margin work. It makes the same amount of money as the $500,000 guy. So it's more than one way to look at it.
Thank you.
Mike?
Yeah, just to, I guess, build a little on Andrew's question. regarding employees. So you started with basically a subcontractor for the jobs that you lined up initially. How did that work with the training regimen that Kitchen Tune Up states, that you need to bring yourself and whomever it is that you would be using in installation into the training?
I mean, if you have somebody already in mind or somebody who's coming along, so I mean, some people are buying Kitchen Tune Up and they've been flipping houses for decades, and they already have some people they kind of employ, and now they're growing into kitchen, whatever business, Kitchen Tune Up, lines, whatever. They're gonna bring them, and they want to be part of the training school because they're gonna be full-time employee. If you want to bring a subcontractor to that, typically what you're trying to do is find a subcontractor with refacing background or full new cabinet background, tile background. Not necessarily you wouldn't want to incur the expense of bringing them to a training school, especially if they're not even your employee.
Yeah, I guess that's what I was poking at. Because I wouldn't see any sense in bringing a subcontractor into that training as long as they're able to do the work.
Yeah, I mean, even another position is a sales rep. Would you bring a sales rep to training school? I don't know. I mean, salespeople are so gun ho making sales. I don't know how long they're going to sit through a training school and learn about all the different other aspects of Kitchen Tune Up. I mean, if they can sit there and learn, they'll be a great salesperson because they can actually sit down, learn, follow through, focus, take care of your leads. Salespeople can have a different mindset, not an operational mindset or project manager mindset.
Okay. Real quick, and I don't want to take too much time, but you mentioned the home shows, and that's come up quite a bit, not only for this prospect, for others that I've been looking at. To what degree does Kitchen Tune Up sort of assist in your footprint at those home shows, or is that fully similar to your marketing is on you? Do you have to come up with your own materials, booth, all of that?
So I mean, they do provide banners, not booths, basically what do they call banners and flyers and the big, it's not a blow up, the big wall of your name. So that is part of your franchise purchase is all that material you'll need for your home show booth setup.
Okay.
Yeah. They won't staff it for you, but they'll at least give you the material. Cool. Jesus, I think, no, sorry, Andrew. My Zoom screen keeps flipping. Trying to go in order.
Yep.
Start asking myself questions.
So if let's say you start out month one, is there a particular type of jobs that you go after to try to, get your processes up going? Like, do you try to go for the smaller jobs just to make sure that, your processes are down, or do you try to dive right into the big stuff to get revenue going?
I guess it's all how you're staffed. So like, for example, we didn't really want to touch flooring until we got somebody who could do flooring. And then we felt like, hey, we can sell flooring. So I would say you sell as much as you can staff or install or do. So if you feel like you just have somebody who's experienced in refacing and installing cabinets, and you might shy away from doing flooring or backsplash or countertops. So it's kind of how you want to position yourself. I would say it's nice to not overwhelm yourself with all those aspects, just because you might not price it correctly. So it might be high revenue, but low margin, with lots of management to cover that margin or to make that margin. I would say in the beginning, most of that management is going to fall on your shoulders unless you're going to hire a project manager, which usually is not the first or second person you hire. I don't know, in my discussions with other Kitchen Tune Up franchises, I would say keeping it simple in the beginning is nice. But also depends if you find a good countertop partner. I went through about 3 or 4 until I found one that was kind of a sweet spot. They manage themselves well. They have a good scheduling center. They can stick to their dates, stick to their installation dates. So, okay, now I can sell countertops, put in my proposal, make some money on it. And I would say if you don't want to take on stuff, some cases we don't even want to put their countertop on, find partners that'll give you a referral fee. So like my countertop partner, I'll just refer them a job, they'll give me 17%. It's like, why fight and try to manage a countertop, install and template and manage schedule for that? You can just kick it over to them and collect 15% or something like that.
No, that's a good point. And my other question is, and I'll let you get back to Jesus, is I've heard from Craig and from some webinars I've looked at that the specialty software on the iPad where you kind of hold it up and take a picture of what it's going, what their kitchen will look like. How have you found the effectiveness of that?
We haven't really started to use, only because we've been bogged down more in terms of, because that was just released about 2 months ago. And you need a specific iPad Pro, so not everybody has it. And we purchased the additional territory end of February, beginning of March. So that hasn't been on my radar to do. I have played with it. I think it's a good tool because it helps. So like in a sales appointment, you can talk about colors and samples, and then you pull up a picture of it before and after. That's really close to what the kitchen looks like. And then that's when it clicks like, oh, I can see now how this is going to look. Now I have a comfortable level. So that's where that program helps someone to be comfortable. Like, okay, this is how my kitchen is going to look like after I go to a white, or I go to a blue island, or I go to a stain island with a white kitchen surrounding it in the perimeter. So there's definitely a benefit to it because it captures that moment of, oh, I'm comfortable now with how this is going to look.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Jesus.
Yeah, on the sales, you mentioned it, hiring some sales people on your crew or on your team. Are you hiring them by salary or by commission or both?
Just by commission.
Just by commission? Okay.
Yeah, I don't believe in salary for a salesperson. It's like if you need salary, then you're not driven to close deals.
Yeah, usually that commission is a percentage of the sale, and that you stipulate with them, and then I guess that you include that in your cost.
Yeah, so you include that in how you're going to price your products. So it is a percentage. It's up to you how you want to do it. Typically, I'd say it ranges between 8 to 10%. And there's different ways to motivate. You know, you can do tier structures in terms of, okay, you sell this much, now you'll get another percentage increase. And if you sell this much and you close this much, then you get 100% increase. So yeah, I think one time I did was I hired somebody and I covered like the first month of salary. I just came up with a number, I forgot what it was. And all it did was just have like a slow kickoff for that person. It's like, there was a dragging feet on training and stuff. And it's like, well, you get nothing. So you better start learning fast.
Yeah. Now, in terms of the product, what is your best seller product that Kitchen Tune-Up offers?
Probably the core services, the refacing and new cabinets. Yeah.
Refacing and new cabinets?
Yeah.
And which one is the one that has a higher profit on that? The resurfacing has a high profit, or the new cabinets has a high profit?
I'd say probably refacing has the highest profit. I'm taking into account like just even the management side of things. Like, yeah, I mean, floor model is always going to be a higher priced item, but it doesn't necessarily mean gross profit, gross margin percentage. Percentages aren't everything, but
I'm guessing that the refacing is faster, less time, and you basically cash out. I mean, faster.
Yeah, it's like, you know, if all I could do, you know, I've thought about it this way, the Henry Ford Model T approach, just pump out a reface, just go, just get in, get out, just like keep the Model Ts. They're all black, and just if all I could do is just reface white kitchens for the next 20, 30 years, I'd be fine. I don't care.
I'm with you. Okay, perfect.
From a ownership, not from a sales perspective, I'll probably get bored of that. But for me, from a margin perspective, I was like, if all I do is reface white kitchens every week for the next 20, 30 years, I'm fine.
And which type of job will be the most challenging? The ones for the new cabinets, I guess?
Yeah, because there's more. You're managing, the cabinet part, you're managing the countertop people, the backsplash, the plumber if you're going to do plumbing, flooring if that's involved, and it's a longer project, so it drags on. You know, you're in somebody's house for a month and a half, 2 months, so they're a little bit more anxious. And somebody's like, "Whoa, we got this done in a week. That's awesome." And you have the kitchen back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's see, less headaches than a reface, but it's good to have both.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes we'll walk in, talk and reface, and then we walk out with a new cabinet job. So it's it's nice to offer both, I'll say.
Yeah, absolutely. It has to. Yeah.
Cool. Back to Mike. 350. Got about 10 minutes. Is that okay with everyone? 10 minutes.
Yeah, actually, I'm not sure I have anything specific. I'll just keep listening, see if something comes up.
I would say talk to Nick and Tessa because they're like not far from you in Rapids. They'd probably have a better answer for like demographics and specific, I guess, more appropriate answers relative to where you live.
Yeah, well, actually, you know what, Dan, that does prompt a question. I didn't really mention. You mentioned potential for efficiencies of scale with nearby owners. How does that work? So if assuming Nick and Tessa don't hate my guts and we want to get together and pool our resources, have you done that? Is that common?
So when I kind of had to do all the legwork because I was the first one here. So then when the other ones came in, like, hey, do you have a subcontractor for tile? What do you use for countertops? Things like that. But again, they're 20 minutes away from me, or 10 minutes, depending where. So I have 2 franchises that bump into me, and then the other one is like a 15-minute ride from my franchise to their franchise line of territory. So it helps. And then, but on the flip side, I've needed some help, so I was able to use their guys, or I needed a subcontractor. Like, man, I got to run into this, and my guy's out. Do you have a subcontractor? So we'll share subcontractors, like tile guy, countertop subcontractor, like partner. So there's that help and positive aspect of it. Everybody still kind of does their installation and process and steps differently a little bit, but that doesn't impact the final result of a project.
Okay. Great. Well, thanks.
Andrew?
This will be my last question. So year one, what is a realistic revenue and gross margin and net margin goal for year one?
I would say maybe forget about net. Year one. Sorry, that's a little blatant maybe. I don't even remember like my exact numbers for year one. Again, because I started a little bit slow, I didn't spend that much in marketing, and I did start after all my home shows. So I started 3 months earlier, and I spent more in marketing. I mean, year one, let's just say you can make between 200 and 500,000. It's all going to depend on how good you close, what's your marketing spend, when are you starting to. I think that plays an impact too.
Got it. And what would that be around the? I've heard the margins are ballpark average 53%.
Yeah, usually you shoot for about 50%. I would say.
Okay.
For gross margin.
Right. Yeah, I mean, obviously, year one, your net margin is probably going to be a loss or close to it.
Correct.
And
you're factoring in you're pumping out money to marketing, figuring out what works, what doesn't work. So there's a bit of a trial and error period that's going to cost you money.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Jesus.
I think Andrew stole my questions. Those were actually my last questions that I have also for you here on my notes. But I would like to say I really appreciate the time that you take here to give us all this information for all of us, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I try to be as specific, but I also know that every business starts different. Some people hit the ground running to invest more money into marketing, so in turn they should close more deals, right? Revenue and things like that. But again, what's that not going to be at the end of the year because they are investing more into marketing? That all varies. Are you doing your own sales? So if you think your salesperson is going to make 75,000 the first year, and you're doing all the sales, so obviously you're keeping that in your business or in your home. Yeah, so that's going to benefit you. But also, you're getting less time to run a business. Yeah. I think as owners, we always get somehow stuck with getting pulled back into sales. But if you enjoy it, then that's awesome. Do sales and then have an admin run your. I also forgot to mention I do have an admin, which is a huge help. Even at like 20, 25 hours a week. It's awesome. It's so worth it because you just anything you don't want. That's not that you don't want to do, but it consumes the time that just doesn't make sense for us
Yeah,
to do it.
I guess all the paperwork and all the tedious things that a business has to deal with. I mean, it's always helpful to have someone, and like you say, I mean, probably a part-time 20 hours or something that resolves that problem and gives you more time to concentrate on the clients or resolve the issues with clients that kind of bring up, the name of your company up to the level that most of us, want to be. So yeah.
It just frees us up to grow the business versus hunting down like, why did this person not get reached for a call, like a scheduled appointment, or figuring out like, okay, I saw this baseball field and we could put a marketing banner on there. Like, just give it to your admin. Hey, there's a baseball field over here in the city. Figure out how to, who all runs it, what do we need to do, what's the design, work with the home office for marketing. Like, just tell me what the number is and then what it's looking like. Let me give you the final approval. So essentially, you want them doing the work, and you just kind of doing your final check mark and approval. So that's been a huge help keeping things going.
Now that you mentioned it, that I guess that I do have a question about the all the materials that you use to sell the products. I know that, I mean, I provided from the franchise. Do you have a limit of that, or is something that they kind of upgrade every year or so? I mean, with different colors or different things that helps you to take it to the customer and show it, okay, this is the way that you can paint your kitchen, something like that.
I mean, after like the initial samples you receive from like the initial purchase of the franchise, you can just go to any of your suppliers and say, hey, I want this door style and this color, and you can order 10, 15, 20, 100. That's up to you, kind of what you want. I will say the less people see, the easier it is to have them make a decision. Here's our 3 doors.
Yeah.
White and white. Which one do you want?
Yeah. If you take too many samples with the clients, they start getting overwhelming from them, and at the end, probably for you as well, and you ended up probably even not selling something.
Yeah, you're spending more. It's like, yeah, give me a deposit, and then we can talk about designs and colors, for the next 2 weeks. I want to show you more than 3 colors before you sign and give me a deposit.
Yeah, I know. Been there.
yeah. If you do an architect, yeah. But I would say, the admin was a big help, just because there's a lot of like the small things, just like, oh, this came through. Can you like just figure this out? So that's a good first, especially if you get caught into doing sales in the beginning, which I think most owners do in the beginning, maybe the first 6 months, 12 months. It's nice to have an admin, send out a packet, just double check with this, make sure they're still good, confirm things like just because getting on a call, you say you don't reach somebody, they call you back, and then it's back and forth. You lose so much time versus the admin just sitting at the computer, not out in the field. They can answer those for you. So I'd say that's been great.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it, Andrey.
Yeah. Where are you guys at, Jesus? You said in Texas? No, you're not in Texas. You said
yeah, we're in Texas. Yes,
okay.
Northwest.
West
Texas. Yes.
Okay, West Texas. Yeah. Where's that big national park out there?
The what, sorry?
Isn't there like a big national park out in Texas?
And I mean, we have I think the closest is the Lincoln National Park. That's the biggest one, I believe.
Guadalupe.
But that's in Mexico.
Yeah, we're in a big state.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just like California.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, okay. Any other final questions?
No, I just really appreciate you taking the time to field questions and educate us.
Yeah. Best of luck.